Well, for centuries, martial arts clans passed on their inner family secrets only from father to eldest son, or to sons, and in some cases the extended family, and in rare cases to outsiders. This was, of course, the case when Yang Chen-fu, the third generation head of the Yang family, passed on his teaching to his eldest son, Yang Shaocheng. Driven from China to Hong Kong during the Communist Revolution, Yang Shaocheng, having had no sons, chose a male disciple as his heir, and his name was Ip Tai Tak. Master Ip's son chose not to pursue his father's famous Tai Chi system, so Master Ip chose two disciples. I was lucky to become one of them, given the Chinese name Bao Tak Fai, and breaking centuries of Chinese clan tradition by being given permission to teach the snake style openly and without prejudice. You know, we Americans, we feel entitled. It's part of our problem, I think. But anyway, people feel that they deserve to get the best information if they prove themselves, if they give enough money, if they work hard enough. But we're talking about Chinese culture. The big question is, what's the difference? Tiger style, snake style, one's lower than the other one, right? And I have to say, no, you missed the point. It's about movement. It's about how you initiate movement in Tai Chi. And every Yang Tai Chi practitioner who's at all serious knows these principles that were handed down or stolen or whatever from the Yang family's manual. And they talk about set the shoulder, lower the elbow, hollow the chest, raise the back, loosen the waist, keep the head upright and the body well balanced, and action and idea and energy or an agreement. Well, I believed when I was doing the Tiger style that I was obeying these principles. In fact, I didn't understand a single one, not a single one. As I began to understand the snake style, as it began to come clear to me in my body and in my thinking, I realized the Yangs were writing about this Tai Chi, the importance of these principles of set the shoulder and lower the elbow, understand what that means, hollow the chest, raise the back, huge in snake style movement, loosen the waist, absolutely important. They were talking about their family Tai Chi, and in my mind, that's the snake style Tai Chi. The Yangs were not going to give out the family secrets to the public. It's traditional, it's held for the sons, and when there are no sons, it's transmitted to the disciples. It's a no-brainer. They developed, I believe in the third generation, Yang Chen-fu, I believe he developed a Tai Chi system that was simplistic, that he was willing to teach openly for whatever reason, the benefit of the health of the Chinese culture, I don't know. And anyway, that became what's now known as the Tiger style. It's easy, it's sequential, but it doesn't develop the important internal power that is what made the Yangs famous. So it's not dangerous unless you try to turn it into a martial art. It's a fine exercise. It's great for meditation, stress relief. It's a wonderful exercise for the general public. but it's not the system that they made famous or made them famous. And it's, if you look at it, it's just that's the way it was. Master Rip told me, if Grandmaster Yang Sao Chung had had a son, I wouldn't be here. I would not be the disciple. And if my son, Michael, had wanted to study Tai Chi, you wouldn't be here, Bob. It's that simple. I became a 4th degree karate black belt, and by 1983 I was studying Tai Chi, and I worked with a very, very great martial artist teacher who was also a former karateka. And I experienced an awful lot. I worked with Okinawans who were very powerful, and I worked with my former teacher who was very powerful. So I was used to working with very, very talented and high-level martial artists. Master Rip was so far superior to anybody who I'd ever met that he was overwhelming. It was never a question of whether you could do anything with him, but you were subject to what he was going to do to you. And he was very playful and loved to show you his skill and wanted you to feel the power of it, as I did many, many times. Never got hurt, but always was brought to the edge where I would realize just where I might end up if he was serious about what he was doing to me. People might ask, you know, what's a Guaylo from Vermont doing with this worldwide knowledge of this important ancient knowledge of the Yang family Tai Chi? I didn't get to Master Rip's apartment by accident. I was brought by my former teacher, who was a very good martial artist, and Master Rip knew by the time I got there that I was somebody who really loved the martial arts and loved Tai Chi. He was also raised in Hong Kong, which was a very diverse city. So I think when he saw how much I wanted to learn what he had to teach, it was not a question of race. It was a question of desire, and I think he also understood, as many Asians do, sometimes things have to go to the West for them to get it back. I met Master Rip on his birthday in 1999. I was with some colleagues and my former teacher who had invited us to meet both Mary Yang, the daughter of Grandmaster Yang Sao Chung, and Master Rip. We went, and that's where I met his daughter Mabel, and she became very instrumental in my discipleship. By the end of the night, my colleagues and my former teacher had talked me into asking to be his second disciple. He had a first disciple in London. So would her father accept another disciple? She said probably not, but that she would ask him. And anyway, we were getting ready to leave Hong Kong, and we met with her one last time to exchange email addresses, and I didn't bring it up, and we were about ready to leave, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh, Bob, by the way, I asked my father about being his disciple, and he said he would consider it." Well, if you can imagine on the flight back the thoughts that went through my head. So this may have been or most likely is the first discipleship ever done via email. We negotiated and we arranged for my first training visit that following November of 2000. But before I left, I got a final email from Mabel, and she said, "My father just wants to pass on this message. He wants you to forget everything you learned about Tai Chi," which means 17 years of hard work, including forgetting all of your practice habits. He wants you to empty your cup so that he can fill it with fresh tea. Well, to me, that was typical Sifu talk. Obviously, his way of Tai Chi would be his way, and then I would learn it. I didn't realize he was actually talking about learning a different kind of Tai Chi. And when I arrived in November, he told me that he was going to teach me the snake style of the Yang family Tai Chi, and that this was the combat style. Master Rip had a grip like vice grips, you know. I mean, it just catch you wherever it caught you, skin, bone, anywhere. It was just like pliers pulling in. It was amazing, the power of it. and yet his arms were so soft, they were so fast that you could never get him. This is the quality of the Yangs. They're known for these amazing hands. You know, the story, if the opponent doesn't move, I don't move. If the opponent moves, I move first. Well, how can that be? Well, you have to have a faster reflexive action, and if you have the soft arms, if you have the cotton arms and the iron hands, you can do that. And if you can do that, it's very hard for anyone to get you. It gives you a tremendous self-defense ability, and then gives you the sensitivity to be able to control the opponent, follow that force. You've got the touch, go with the force. Once you find that opportunity, boom, with those hands. And he had those hands, believe me, I felt them. They were unbelievable. It really would be after his death before I understood exactly how important this was and exactly what he meant by teaching me the snake style. What I had learned in the 17 years before meeting him was like an orange, and what he was going to teach me was an apple. And he told me it would take me 3 to 5 years to understand the snake style, and of course a lifetime to develop it. So I began my training, and there was a lot of confusion, a lot of talk about crossing the center line, hollow the chest came up always, and it was a few years of trying to figure this method out. Around year 3, it began to click, and I used to send him a videotape of myself every other 3 months. And I remember getting that email from Mabel that said, you know, I just brought your tape over to my father and we watched it together. And I have to tell you, Bob, you're beginning to move and look like my father. Congratulations. Almost a little bit later, I got another email from her and said, my father just called me and wanted me to pass on the fact that your Tai Chi looks very good. And all of a sudden, another email popped up about a minute later, and it said, oops, my father called me again, and he wanted to tell you that your Tai Chi looks wonderful. That was the first pat on the back that really meant something to me. I realized I had begun to bridge the gap and begun to understand the snake style method. He was very excited by what I was doing. He granted me an interview, and he told me that my Tai Chi, that I had the taste of his Tai Chi and that it was delicious. And then I asked him, because I wanted to teach in Germany, possibly with a friend of mine, had a school over there, and I knew he had another disciple, so I wasn't sure where my territory began and where it ended, and he said simply, you can teach anywhere in the world, and you advertise that you know the snake style. Little did I know that would be the last time I would see him alive. The next trip to Hong Kong, when I arrived in Hong Kong Central, he was dead. And at that time I felt I had the responsibility, really, to pass on this great man's teaching, the teaching of the snake style of the Yang family, and I've been working as hard as possible to do that ever since. He really meant forget the tiger style, forget that way that you learned, because you can't drag those ideas into the snake style. You've got to forget that way of moving and open yourself up to a different way of moving, the snake style way of moving. And so I would say to you, if you're interested in studying the snake style, you must do the same thing. Be willing to let go, to empty your cup and open yourself up. You'll really be glad that you did, and you'll understand the importance of that somewhere down the line. But anyway, so my suggestion or my advice to you would be empty your cup.